Welcome to Falls Count Anywhere, where the wrestling ring meets the heart. Hosted by the gentleman Jody Powell, join us as we dive into the latest pro wrestling news and rumors, from the electrifying world of WWE to the inspiring stories of wrestling for Christ. This is your all-access pass to the action, the faith, and the hope. This is Falls Count Anywhere.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Falls Count Anywhere. I am your host, the gentleman Jody Powell, and not with me, as always, is the mad scientist Mike Buchanan. Well, Mike had to have a spinal tap done today, and so that's going to put you flat on your back for a while. He's unable to be with us this evening. So, fans, as you go through your prayer list this week, please put the Buchanans on your prayer list. That's Mike and his wonderful wife, Darlene, who's taken fantastic care of him. Mike, you better be a good patient, man. But yeah, the spinal tap's not, and I'm not talking about the grunge band from the 90s. I'm talking about legit needle in the back, draw the fluid out, migraine if you don't lay flat kind of thing. Well, Mike, we're going to miss you this week, buddy, but we can't wait to see you back here next week. And fans, as you pray for the Buchanans, just pray that God just lays his hands upon them. He is the great physician. I mean, it's wonderful that we can do all of these things, that we have all of access to medical procedures and equipment and all of these things that God has blessed us with. But the one thing that we can't forget is that God is the great physician. And as much as medicines can cure things and prevent things, God can lay his hands on us and heal us in an instant. That's what makes him the great physician. And so I pray for my buddy Mike that God will just lay his hands on him. And he will be the great physician for you, buddy. And that he'll heal you up, and you'll be right back here next week, which I know you plan to be. He wanted to be here this week, and I told him, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to have you falling out on me on camera. And that's not going to happen. But we're going to miss you, buddy. But, we're praying for you, and can't wait to see you back here next week. Well, fans, we have a great show for you this evening. We're going to get into the WWE Wrestling for Christ. And oh my goodness, what a show Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour was. Last Saturday night, we're going to talk a lot about what went on there. For WWE, I want to focus on Monday Night Raw. Last week's show was really interesting. There were three things that I saw that I really, really liked. And I want to get into that. We're also going to have a wonderful, wonderful Finding Tomorrow segment, where we focus on really the goal for all of us, and that is to find tomorrow, finding reasons to want to be here tomorrow. And this world is not our home. It's not. And I know that, you know that, we all feel that. We all have a longing, especially those of us who have come to know the Lord as our Savior. We have a longing to be with him. We have a longing for heaven. We have a longing for peace, for healing, for these things that we read about in the Bible that describe this wonderful place that we get to go when we die. But fans, here's the thing. God has a reason for us to be here right now. God has a reason for us to be here tomorrow. It's not our choice. It's not our time. It's not our decision to make to not be here. We have to find tomorrow. And we're going to help you do that in our final segment of the show. So what do you say we get started, fans? Let's get started with the WWE, and we'll be back to talk Monday Night Raw right after these messages. Oh, hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here. And I can't tell you how much I love this devotional written by my partner on Falls Count Anywhere, the mad scientist, Mike Buchanan. He wrote this book called Feeling Down, Look Up. You want to get your copy today. It's on Amazon. So you're going to want to search for Feeling Down, Look Up by Mike Buchanan. And it's got verses, it's got stories, it's even got a place to make notes. It's fantastic. You'll thank me later. Welcome back, fans, to Falls Count Anywhere. And I want to dive right into the WWE and talk about specifically Monday Night Raw, the show last Monday night, as we prepare for the show this Monday night. After you watch Falls Count Anywhere, and the Clash coming up right after us at 7:30 with Jeff Dixon and the Masked Saint, Chris Whaley. You definitely want to check that out. But when you go to watch Raw Monday night at 8 o'clock, I want you to think about some of the things that we saw last week, because I think there were 3 really good things that I enjoyed, that I appreciate from Monday Night Raw last week. Number one, Raw has gone from 3 hours to 2. Now, I was not a fan. I feel like something was taken away from me. I was one of the ones that was so thrilled when WCW Monday Nitro went to 3 hours. I had the 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock slot just for WCW, just to kick it off, just to see what the NWO was going to do. And then 9 o'clock, I switch over to Raw. Then I switch it back to Nitro. I got 5 hours of wrestling in 3 hours. It was fantastic. And I felt like shortening Raw from 3 hours to 2, I was going to miss something. That was going to feel like SmackDown, because sometimes when I watch SmackDown, it's like, oh, there's a match. Wait, that's the main event. Wait, the show's over? Really? What did we see? Well, I got to tell you, it has not been that way with Monday Night Raw. It's been booked very well. Action from start to finish. I loved what I saw. Get this now. I loved what I saw with the Wyatt Six and the Final Testament. I know. Here's why I loved it. Because the Miz was finally removed from this R-Truth debacle that was their tag team, the Awesome Truth. Been there, done that. We don't need the sequel. We don't need the remake. Should have never happened. The Miz has too much to give. So does R-Truth, to be quite honest with you. R-Truth is just a hilarious individual, and he deserves so much more to do more things than to be kind of pitted with the Miz. We've already seen this act. I loved what I saw from the Miz when he was out there with the Final Testament, with Karrion Kross during the match with AOP, and then all of a sudden the lights went out and the little horn sounded, whatever it is, and we knew that the Wyatt Six were here. And of course, the Wyatt Six took out the Final Testament, leaving Miz in the ring by himself, or so he thought. Uncle Howdy comes up from behind. Precious Paul Ellering pushes Miz out of the way and eats a mandible claw from Uncle Howdy. I love this because, like I said, it puts Miz back in the spotlight. It puts him in storylines that people are going to care about, and I really like that for the Miz. I'm not a big fan of the Wyatt Six, and it's not because of what you think. A lot of people would say, well, you're not a fan because you think it's demonic and evil and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not why I'm not a fan. It felt very indie-ish. And what do I mean by indie-ish? It felt when the lights came back on and you've got Gacy and Loomis and Nikki Cross all up on the top rope, and they're going to jump off on Scarlett and on AOP into the ring. It didn't feel like something that was produced by WWE. It fell flat for me. I mean, Gacy and Loomis look like they could be in Spinal Tap. And yes, I'm talking about the band this time. They don't look like Lost Souls. They look like grunge rockers. You remember the Rockers? Not the Rockers. That was Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. The Headbangers. The tag team, the Headbangers. That's what I'm thinking of. Kind of a cross between the Road Warriors and the Sheep Herders. I don't know. But that's kind of the feel that I got with those two. They felt, like I said, they felt very indie-ish. So I'm not a big fan of that. I was much bigger fan of Loomis when he had the short spiked hair and the crazy look, and he was going after the Miz, and that had intrigue. That piqued my interest. This doesn't. But what I do love about it is that the Miz is brought back to the forefront. I still think he is the most underutilized talent in the WWE. Miz still deserves a push, and they need to book him as a heel, not as a cowardly heel, but as a strong heel. I'm tired of seeing him booked cowardly. He was still doing it Monday night in the ring. He was, in the fetal position as all the chaos was going on around him. I would much rather see him taking out some of the Wyatt Six, to be quite honest. But looks like it's going to be a Miz Uncle Howdy kind of feud, which even Uncle Howdy, if I'm being, the mask, the wig, it looks like something that I bought at Walmart. it's just not the quality that I'm used to seeing, and it's a poor tribute to Bray Wyatt, to be perfectly honest. I hate to say that, but the production value of what the Fiend was, of the Fun House, all of those things that Bray Wyatt was involved in was so much higher than what we saw Monday night. So, just my opinion. But I do love the fact that The Miz is in the mix. I loved Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. I love this feud. I love that we're going to see it at Crown Jewel. I think this is Bronson Reed's opportunity to shine. This is his coming out party, and I'm here for it. The more I've seen him over the last few weeks, the more I want to see him. And so I'm hoping that this is going to lead to Bronson Reed being around in the WWE a long time. And then you had main event Jey Uso dropping the Intercontinental title to Braun Breaker, who's now a 2-time Intercontinental champion. I hate this for Jey Uso because he worked so long to get that singles title, and he only held it for a few weeks. But I guess we had to have him drop the strap to join the Bloodline feud, because that's where this is headed. I mean, there's no question. It's going to be Roman, it's going to be the Usos, and probably going to be Sami Zayn as they take on the Tongans, Solo and Jacob Fatu, probably in some kind of traditional Survivor Series match. I don't know. That just seems to be where it's headed. And we'll have to kind of see how some other pieces play into this. If Cody Rhodes is a part of this, if Kevin Owens ends up being a part of this, who had his battles with the Bloodline, it'll be interesting to see who they bring back for this storyline to maybe close some of the loops on it. So we'll just have to take a look at that. But I just hate that for Jey. I hate it for his legacy, that his first singles title was so short-lived. I think he could have carried that Intercontinental title into this Bloodline story and it not have been an issue. And so it makes you wonder why they had Braun drop the strap to Jey in the first place. I don't like titles changing hands so frequently and so quickly. I think it makes those stars look weaker and weaker, and it takes away from that. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm here for Raw. I'm here for it. So far, so good. And we'll see what we get in the coming weeks with the WWE. We'll be right back, fans, as we're going to talk about Wrestling for Christ and Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour right after these messages. Hello, wrestling fans. The Gentleman Jody Powell here. Are you searching for an engaging speaker for your next church event, civic meeting, industry conference, or a company-wide motivational session? Well, look no further. I'd be honored to bring energy, insight, and inspiration to your event. With experience as a 2022 Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking semifinalist, I know how to connect with audiences, both large and small. Whether it's an intimate gathering or a packed auditorium, I'll deliver a memorable and impactful message tailored to your needs. Visit today at www.jodypowellspeaks.com to explore my keynotes, talks, and trainings. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Book me today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome back, fans, and what a night on Saturday night. Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour, we saw the evidence from our mysterious commissioner. No one knows who the commissioner is. I don't know who the commissioner is. AWOL brought it up in my interview with him. Well, I guess it wasn't really an interview. He was chasing down Sir Charles Humperdinck, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But he said, how do I know you're not the commissioner? Talking about me. Well, I answered that for you, pal. Because if I was the commissioner of the WFC, AWOL wouldn't be in the WFC. But that's just my opinion. I'm not the commissioner, and so they're still here, and that's fine. But what we saw from the commissioner was some evidence, video footage of AWOL discovering his partner in the alley with that chair wrapped around his ankle, as we would soon then learn that it was a broken ankle, that he was going to be out of commission for quite a while. But as the camera panned back to AWOL number one, down in the corner, we see an image, a person, Sir Charles Humperdinck, hanging around the alley after the attack, which begs the question because he manages the Conquerors. Kenny Austin, Chris Thunder Anderson. Was it the Conquerors who were involved in attacking AWOL? Maybe to lessen the competition, make the road a little easier for them as they headed toward tag team gold. And they chased down the Foundation. Getting AWOL out of the way, that could be a possibility. Or maybe Charles was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. We didn't get the opportunity to ask him that question, but we will coming up in Saturday night's Praise and Power Hours. We're going to have a sit-down interview with Sir Charles Humperdinck. Later that night in the main event, Shane Austin versus AWOL. It was Sir Charles Humperdinck with the referee's back turn, hitting AWOL with that baton. Now, I've never been a proponent of Sir Charles hitting anyone with that baton until the main event. That was kind of nice. But be that as it may, Sir Charles, not backing down from the fact that he has a little bit of an issue with AWOL. So we're going to find out exactly what those issues are and exactly what Sir Charles Humperdinck knows about the injury to the partner of AWOL number 2, I guess we'll call him, that's on the shelf with a broken ankle. We haven't seen or heard from him in about 8 weeks. We've only seen his partner, who has wreaked havoc ever since the injury, and just on a mission to find out who was responsible for putting his partner on the shelf. And I think we're a lot closer to the answers to that than we were. Well, fans, the other thing that's really interesting going on in the world of Wrestling for Christ, of course, is the pursuit of the briefcase. The 16-man television turmoil tournament. And what's inside? It doesn't rattle. It doesn't shake. It's awfully heavy. I'm dying to know what's in this briefcase, but we're not going to know until that tournament crowns its champion. And what we do know is that 4 men have made their way into the tournament. 16 men will enter. 1 will win the contents of this briefcase. The 4 men that have made their way into the tournament: John Matthews, Zachariah Cutter, Chris Thunder Anderson, and Kenny Austin. Now, breaking news here is I have been in touch with the new commissioner. A lot of people saying, well, who is this new commissioner? What do we know about them? Well, I don't know much, fans. All I know is that I get text messages from this burner phone that is legitimately from the commissioner. And the commissioner says that this Saturday night, on Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour, 2 more individuals will have the opportunity to impress the commissioner in one-on-one matches. And so we'll have to see who those 2 individuals are and if their match is able to impress the commissioner. Now, what we heard Saturday night, we heard from Mad Dog Nathan Sawyer, who was in a match and had a great match, able to pick up a victory this past Saturday night. And as I went into the ring to interview Mad Dog, it was very apparent he has one thing on his mind, and that is the contents of the briefcase. He wants to be in the tournament. He wants to be seated in the tournament, and he wants to win the tournament because he says that his family, his legacy, the Sawyer name, Uncle Buzz Sawyer, his brother, his father, himself, 4 wonderful wrestlers. The Sawyers deserve to be crowned the champion, which led to the question, well, Nathan, it was just a couple of weeks ago that he was attacked by AWOL, and his brother, Buzzsaw Sawyer, made the save. We saw Nathan stick out his hand to try to shake the hand of his brother. His brother pushed him to the side and left the ring. But I gotta wonder that anytime there's family dynamics like that, fans, I gotta wonder, are we headed toward a Sawyer tag team? Well, I asked Nathan that, and he told me that was a swing and a miss, strike one, that family business is none of mine. Well, I would normally tend to agree, Nathan, that family matters should be handled within the family. But this particular family business that we're talking about could have an impact on the world of wrestling for Christ, particularly in the tag team division, which is just heating up right now. You've got the Conquerors, you've got Perfect Vision, which we haven't even talked about, John Matthews and Zachariah Cutter. You've got, of course, the champions, the Foundation, feeling a little disrespected right now because Matthews picked up a win over Dylan Dollar. And then we saw just earlier on this past Saturday night, Chris Thunder Anderson getting the victory over Travis Roberts, leading to the number one contender tag team match that's going to happen this Saturday night when Perfect Vision will take on the Conquerors to determine who's going to get a shot at the WFC tag team title. Oh, there's so much going on in the world of wrestling for Christ, fans. You want to tune in Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour, 6 p.m. every Saturday night. The replay following Thursday at 9 p.m. If you miss it, you don't want to miss it. Well, fans, we'll be back right after these messages with our Finding Tomorrow segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, wrestling fans, to Falls Count Anywhere, and it's time for us to move right into our Finding Tomorrow segment. And what I want to talk about this evening is something that I think we've all faced at some point in time, and something that we will continuously face as we move through our lives, and that is that surprise medical ailment that just happens to crop up in our lives. And sometimes it crops up in our lives for us because we're afflicted. Sometimes it crops up because a loved one is afflicted. Sometimes they're afflicted with things that are of minor consequence, and sometimes not. Sometimes the issue is terminal. And so how do we face that head on? What are the ways that we can get past this? Because anytime that we're faced with this kind of burden, whether it's for us or whether it's for our family members, we can feel anxiety, we can feel depression, we can feel all of the burdens and the struggles that come along with dealing with medical situations. And we have to ask ourselves the question, and many times we have, why would God do this? Why would God allow this? Why do bad things happen to good people? And I want to address that. And I want to address it with a verse found in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4. And this is what that verse says. It says, He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. I read this verse and it's like a light bulb went off. Oh, well, that's why, quote unquote, good people are afflicted with ailments or bad things happen to so-called good people. I mean, let's be real and honest with ourselves. There are no good people. We all fall, and those falls count anywhere. Romans 3:23. We all fall short of the glory of God. But putting that aside, the question still remains why bad things happen to good people, or how a God who claims to love all of us would allow such bad things to happen. And that's the answer in 2 Corinthians 1:4. You see, we have to experience things to be comforted by God. And when we go through those things, whether it be a medical issue or a personal issue, a mental health issue, a financial issue, divorce, death, grief, all of the things that we face in this broken world that are intended to tear us down, we as Christians seek comfort from God. And 2 Corinthians 1:4 says, he comforts us. I mean, the first three words right there should be reassuring to us all. He comforts us in all our troubles, not just the one thing you're going to him with, not just with the medical ailment, not just with the grief, not just with the anxiety, not just with the depression, not just with the crappy job that you have to go to every single day. God comforts us in all of our troubles. Why? So that we can comfort those in any trouble. How? With the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Why do bad things happen to good people? How can a loving God allow things like this to happen to good people, people he claims to love? Well, it's so that we can live a life the way Christ lived his life. See, that's the model. Christ was tempted directly by Satan for 40 days in the desert. When he was hungry, when he was tired, when he didn't sleep, when he didn't eat, when he was at his weakest, he was tempted. So he knows what it feels like to be tempted. His best friend died, Lazarus. And Jesus came back to town to find everyone in grief and in mourning and in tears. And it moved him so much so that he wept. He felt the loss of a loved one. You see, Jesus understands everything that we've been through. On the cross, the physical pain, the ailment that he went through for you and for me, it's beyond anything that hopefully we ever experience. And yet we do have ailments and we do have pains and we do have suffering, physical suffering. Why? So that we as Christians, so that we as believers can bring comfort to those who aren't. With the comfort we receive from God. You see, when God comforts us in our troubles, that comfort doesn't belong just to us. It belongs to others. We are to use it. We are to spread it. We are to share it. He comforts us in all of our troubles. Oh, that's so reassuring. And God doesn't just answer the requests that you pray to him. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort those in any troubles with the very comfort we ourselves receive from God. What a circular, beautiful process to be able to comfort those who may not see, may not believe. I mean, after all, if bad things only happen to the unbeliever, why in the world would they believe us, the believers? Who's going to be there to share the hope and the light if we can't be there in the bad times? Jesus understood in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prayed for that burden to be removed from him. He didn't want to die on the cross. What he wanted was God's will. If there was any other way, God, please find it. And God said, there is no other way. And Jesus said, okay, God, your will be done. And he died for you and he died for me. Praise God that he did. So friends, as you look for tomorrow, as you look to find tomorrow, find hope in that God comforts us in all of our troubles. And then find purpose. And I pray that God puts someone in your path that you can turn around and share that comfort with. Well, fans, stay tuned because Chris Whaley, Jeff Dixon coming up with a clash right now.